the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
There we go. And we are back on Wednesday. Taylor, can you believe the Chiefs won by 40 points?
Honestly, I was going to say that. I thought about that earlier, forgot, but I was going to be like, oh, congratulations to the Chiefs for winning. So, can you believe that Taylor Swift endorsed Biden on live TV?
Can you believe
That was
Travis
incredible.
Kelce proposed? That was unbelievable.
And
I
she's
can't believe
pregnant and
she's
they're
pregnant.
exciting. Yeah. So
What a
many
wild
things
Super Bowl
happened on
was.
Sunday. Yeah, it was really fun.
So clearly, we do not record this on the days they're released. So
And
hopefully,
that's true. I don't know, man.
maybe
I
maybe it
feel,
is true.
feel pretty
Maybe
good
it
about
is.
some of those things.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so we are back and we covered Calhoun City on Monday. We're going to cover a new topic, which Taylor's going to make me guess, and then we're going to see if I'm going to get it.
And yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of an intro, and then I'll talk about like the thing I'm talking about. Okay.
Am I going to guess or no?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
so. So I'm talking about art because I have a very expensive art history degree that I also can't find. Mom, if you're listening to this, I can't find it. But like the physical degree. I don't think that I need it, but like I can't find it. Um, but I was looking up fun things that happened in Europe, like heists and thefts. So I thought maybe let's talk about like an art heist and like art theft in the past. And I read a book about it, it's like the famous art heists, and I'll share it in our socials and such. But a lot of the things that I read about it are people being like, it's theft, it's not a heist, and it's not fun. And you're like, yeah, but like it's also kind of fun.
It's definitely
You know what I
fun.
mean?
It's awesome.
Like it's something that like, is in obviously in our zeitgeist for so long. Like, I mean, obviously have you seen the Thomas Crown Affair?
I have not seen that one.
It's so good. So my friend Nicole, that you know.
That was Pierce Brosnan and
Yeah.
oh my, what was the woman's name?
She's
Oh
so
my
pretty. I
God.
don't remember. Renee?
I Renee no, not Zellweger. Renee Russo.
Yes.
I don't know why I'm screaming. Sorry.
No, she's very pretty. You can scream. But Nicole and I lived in Italy in Florence for a semester. We shared a room and we had the only TV in the apartment in our room. And so we would watch a lot of like MTV Italia and like random things. And one day she was like, man, I just want to watch the Thomas Crown Affair. And then it was on TV, which was like real exciting for us.
Fun.
Yeah.
My favorite heist movie is Entrapment.
Okay, fair.
That's a good one.
They're all good. Have you seen the Rick and Morty heist episode?
No.
It's like a heist within a heist within a heist. It's really good. It's like great. He like hates heists and then like does a thing and like so a heist is fun. Um, also, one of the first movies that like really talked about art theft was in Dr. No in 1962, which was the first James Bond movie. Um, in real life, the portrait of the Duke of Wellington had just been stolen in the UK, and it was stolen for like a couple of years, and they found it. I didn't look. That's not what we're talking about, but it was in Dr. No's lair in the movie. Like he had been the one who stole it. Like they just like put it in as like a prop, which is fun.
That's
It wasn't the
awesome.
real one, but like that's a fun thing. That also happened in Red Notice. Did you watch Red Notice? It was on
Mm-mm.
Netflix. It's like Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, which we talked about in the past.
And The Rock, right?
And yeah, and The Rock. And they do that thing where The Rock is an FBI agent and he like finds Ryan Reynolds's like island house and he's like, well, I think that I heard that you stole this painting. And Ryan Reynolds is like, I didn't do it. And it's behind him. You know, like that's stupid, but that's really funny. Um, the guy who actually had stolen the portrait of the Duke of Wellington from the National Gallery in London, he was just a dude who was pissed that his cable bill was going up, so he just went in and took it. And
How did
like
he correlate
it
the
was
two?
he was like I think that what I got from it was like in the UK, at least at that point, it was like a public service, the television was. So it was like you pay the government for the television service, is what I got, I think. So he wanted to like, whatever, um, punish the government for that. So it ended up that he was only charged with stealing the frame because he had like uh because that was something that like I think he had damaged it, but like the fact that he didn't plan to keep it forever meant that it wasn't a crime, which is like a hilarious loophole because like you can't just do that. Like, oh, I stole your car, but like I meant to bring it back. Like, no, you didn't. But he got 3 months in jail for stealing the frame, which is kind of fun.
I
Um,
heard that if you back in the day, if you broke out of jail, it was only a crime if you didn't ship back your jail clothing.
because that wasn't specifically in the rules.
Yeah, yeah, they're
That's
like
funny.
something about like how people want to be free, and so you can't blame them for breaking out.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Um, yeah, so it was like a loophole that got him out. But oh, there's also the Audrey Hepburn movie, How to Steal a Million, is really good too. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but it's great. So like now it's a little bit more. It is it is hard to steal art out of a museum. Like there really is a lot of
Have you tried?
security. You know, no, but like I feel like it'd be hard, especially
Well,
now that
you'll
we have
know
like
if you try.
cameras and I assume lasers. You know, like that's what I assume is everywhere. Um, but the first art theft, big one, was in 1472. That happened when a ship en route to Florence with a triptych, which means like a painting that's in three pieces by Hans Memling called The Last Judgment. And it was on a ship and it got taken over by Polish pirates and it got taken to the Polish city of Gdansk. And I think it's still there today. Like it was taken there and they put it on display. And it's been like a bunch of back and forth since then. But that was like the first one that was like recorded. Um, so I'm going to talk about a different piece of art that has been in and out of a bunch of different places and is probably the most famous painting in the world. Can you think of a lady who is the most famous painting in the world who has also recently been souped upon?
I was so hoping this was going to be about Nicolas Cage and the Declaration of Independence, but I guess it's
Next
not.
thing.
I'm going to go with the Mona Lisa.
Correct.
I got something right.
That's what I wrote. I wrote correct. I knew you'd get it. So we'll talk about the Mona Lisa. It's a miracle that we still have her, because she's like 500 years old. And it's so cool to me as someone who is a art history major who does not work in art history at all and never will. Um, I still think it's so cool that you can stand in front of these paintings, like you can stand in front of them and someone painted it. It's like a real thing. Like, there's prints, of course, when you see them in real life, like it's just really cool. Like there's places in Italy where I like saw paintings that like have never moved from where they were painted because they're on walls. Like, they're painted onto the wall. But you've seen it reproduced so many times, but you could like be in the room that it was made. Which
Yeah,
is
it's
cool.
fun.
You know, like the Sistine Chapel and the Last Supper. It's cool to see that. Have you ever seen the Mona Lisa in person?
I've never been to France, so no.
I think I've been to Paris once, but I just went for like a day, so I didn't get to go. But it's very crowded and stressful, obviously. It's like a whole thing, but let me tell you a little bit about why. I did get to stand in front of my favorite painting in the National Gallery in London, the Arnolfini portrait by Jan van Eyck. It's my favorite painting. And I like it wasn't crowded, and I went back a few times to stare at it, and it's just like really cool to be there, like with it in
Wait,
person.
what's stressful? It's visiting the Louvre.
Visiting the Mona Lisa specifically.
Uh,
So, basically, I say this later, but I'll say it now. Like in 2019, so very recently, they changed it. So there's like a line, and you go in a small group, and you have 30 seconds to look at it, and then you have to leave. Because before then, it was just a crowded room, and you were like 20 feet from it. You know,
yeah.
it's not very big. I'll talk about how big she is as well in a second. Do you know who painted Leonardo da Vinci? Oh, the Mona Lisa. I just told you. Oh no. Did you know
I would
that
have
though?
I would have said DiCaprio, but Da Vinci works too.
Um, I wrote Jesus Christ, it's Leonardo da Vinci, but
I did know that. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Leonardo da Vinci. When I was a kid, I like wanted to be like I wanted to be like he was like the first person I was like, oh, I want to be like that guy because I was like, he's so smart and he's so cool and he keeps like buying corpses and cutting them up and like drawing them. Then he
exactly
would like write his notes in like the mirror upside down and backwards.
backwards.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it was just
yeah,
like he was just a cool guy.
yeah, exactly. He's a cool guy. And one of the things that they call him is a polymath, which is a person who like is like a Renaissance man, like someone who knows like all sorts of things and is really good at all sorts of things. So like Elon Musk like thinks he's one. A good example is Benjamin Franklin, obviously, is like a person who like, you know, tinkered in a lot of different things and was really smart. But when I Googled who are the modern polymaths, the first person that comes up is Natalie Portman. So good for her.
Is it
She's
just
like,
what does it just being a genius?
yeah, like smart, but like in different, but like really good at like different things like philosophy and history and art and whatever. So good
You
for
are
good.
never going to get over your feud with Elon Musk, are you?
No, because I'm a good person. But we don't have to talk about it. So Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15th, 1452, near Vinci. the city, probably. He could have been born in Florence at a house his dad owned, but we don't know. His parents were not married. His dad was a notary and his mom was like a peasant woman. Both of them, within a year of his birth, would marry other people, and his dad would have three more wives. Leonardo had 16 half siblings. 11 of them survived infancy, and but he wasn't very close with them because he was a lot older than them. His last sibling was born when he was 46. So
Wow.
it was like, his dad, like, getting younger and younger wives as they die, which is like,
Yeah.
like you do. He was raised in his father's household. He had an informal education, so just like, whatever you learned at home. He learned how to read, but it was like vernacular, so it wasn't like formal education. But later he ended up showing like obviously a lot of promise in the arts. He said that he remembered being a baby and seeing a bird in his cradle, and people are like, you don't remember that? That was so long ago, but like I believe him. If anyone's gonna remember being a baby, it's Leonardo da Vinci, you
I
know?
mean, I'll believe him just because the story has no significance.
Yeah, exactly. So, he at 14, the family moved to Florence, and he was trained in painting, sculpture, metalworking, and he worked with an artist named Verrocchio. We have to say it, Verrocchio, right?
Verrocchio.
You have to say it like that.
Love it.
Verrocchio. And he, quickly he was better than him. Like everyone knew and could tell that this kid was like really, really fucking great at everything he did. One historian, Vasari, who's also a painter, but was like a really important historian for this time. A lot of this is from him. I also just like love that he lived in Florence because I lived in Florence. I took the most ridiculous classes when I lived in Florence. One was the landscapes and gardens of Tuscany, and every Thursday we just went to a different garden, and all my papers I got A pluses on. It was just like very fun. And then I took one just called Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and it was just we would just go to museums and we like went to Milan and like looked at paintings, and it was great. But it's fun that he was there where I also have been. This is obviously the time of the Renaissance. There's, incredible artists and thinkers and painters, and he lived with Verrocchio for a while, but he also had his own studio. So he also did the things that like you see in his like sketchbooks, like he would draw like flying machines and, imagine all these things that like weren't possible then, but he would draw them and he would draw people. He would dissect people to like draw their vocal cords after they were dead. I don't know where he got them. I don't know the details of that,
That's like
but he would do
when,
it.
when when I was a kid, that was like the part of it that like always discouraged me the most about. I was like, I'll never be a super genius like Leonardo da Vinci because like even his like sketches were like crazy works of art. like,
Oh my
like
God, I know.
like his throwaway material was like I was like, okay, so wait, so I gotta like start drawing now bullshit that is like the best bullshit that anybody can ever draw, just so I can work my way up to painting this. Like, I was like,
I mean,
this feels
1,000%.
insurmountable for my skill
Yeah.
set.
It's like Leonardo da Vinci sketched this person and you're like, holy crap, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Crazy.
Like it's crazy. So he ended up moving to Milan and he became a court artist and engineer to a man called Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan. And he did a lot of engineering things. So he designed like elaborate parties, which sounds really fun, war machines and flying machines, and he did like a bunch of like naval stuff. So he would be able to um like design new boats, new ways of, armoring. In Milan, it's where he painted The Last Supper, which I know you've seen.
Hmm?
You know what it looks
Yeah.
like. Um, it is in Santa Maria della Grazia, which is a church. It is on a wall. Like it doesn't move. It's not painted or anything. It's painted onto the wall. So one thing that Michelangelo did, like the Sistine Chapel in fresco, which is where you paint wet plaster. So you're putting the pigment into the plaster as it is drying, and that makes it like really resilient and it makes it like last a long time and like hardens into the painting. It is so hard to do that. There was a in Italy also, Nicole and I took with my art history teacher. He did like an activity where he had us paint a fresco and we just had like a little piece of things like of plaster and we had to like paint over it and it just like it dries so fast. It's so hard to do anything on it, but that's how like Michelangelo did those things and a lot of the things in Italy are that. But Leonardo didn't like doing that. So instead, he did a layer of white lead, which I'm sure was great for
Really
everyone.
good for yeah.
Yeah. And then he painted in tempera paint, which is a pigment typically made of eggs. So it's like eggs mixed with the different colors of pigment that you get from like nature, and it lasts a really fucking long time. It's like a lot of paintings before oil paintings were painted using the egg tempera. Tempera. It's hard not to say egg tempura, and I know I'm saying that wrong. I'm
So wait,
sorry,
he
but
didn't paint with oil paintings or
not
oil?
yet.
Okay,
Not yet. Not the Last Supper. So he did it in the tempera, egg tempera, 2 layers of glaze, and it is miraculously still there. In World War II, it was boarded up and the church was totally bombed, but that one wall stayed up.
that's crazy.
And it's been restored a few times, um, but he painted that in Milan while he was there. So Milan was like it wasn't like Italy was all one country during the 1500s. So it was like your different little kingdoms. And so he was living with like the Duke, and the Duke of Milan was overthrown by France. So he had to leave and like go to a different part of Italy. He went like the Italian area. So he went to Venice, and he was an architect, an evil designer. He also drew awesome maps, which is cool because of course
Wait,
he could draw great maps.
so can I interject real quick and go
Yeah.
backwards for a second? Have you
Mhm.
seen The Last Supper in person?
Yes.
So like, what is it? You walk into a church and it's just like standing there?
hmm They like built other like walls around it, obviously, and then like it's like but it's like its own old wall in like new walls because the walls were all destroyed in during World War II. But then and there's like you can't get close to it. There's like a red velvet rope, but you can walk in and you see it. And it's just there.
It- Does it have like a thing on it, like the way the Mona Lisa has a thing on it that you can't?
I don't think so. It did. Well, I mean, I was there 20 years ago, but it didn't then. It might
That's
now.
that's kind of crazy
It's
that you can
crazy
just
to
like
me that
walk into a church and like see
yeah,
something so old and famous.
and that you've seen so many times reproduced, and then you like see it in person.
Is it big?
Yes, it's like big on the wall. That's a good question. Dimensions of the Last Supper. Hold on. It is, oh God, 346 inches. What the hell does that mean? It is 28 feet. Yeah, it's huge.
Wow.
It's really big.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
just curious.
No, 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 great question. So when he was in Italy, he worked for the Pope for a while. He would do fun things like glue horns to lizards and have them run around. And like glue wings on lizards and have them like run around and like scare people. I heard the story in my class that I took in Florence that he like figured out how to like blow up a lizard's skin to make it like huge and then it would like explode. Like he did a lot of like little
Sounds
experiments. He was like a gross jokester.
unnecessarily
Yeah.
cruel and shitty.
So he was doing all of that. He had um we don't know much about his personal life. He had an assistant named Gian Giacomo Prodi de Reno, better known as Salai, Salai. They lived together for 30 years, so it's speculated that they were, lovers and not just
Is it a
roommates,
is it a
you know.
man?
Yes, it's a man.
Got it.
The nickname Salai is derived from the Italian word Saliano, which means little devil or imp. So I feel like if you're nicknaming someone, oh, you little devil, like I don't know, maybe you're dating.
It's cute.
What do I? What do I know? So I don't, and I also read that earlier in his life, he had been charged with the crime of sodomy, but it was the roof, so he was not charged with it. So there are little things that suggest that he, was in like a homosexual relationship, but like I'm not here to out him, but that's just like something that or he never had a relationship with a woman that was like recorded, or a
It's
man,
like
or anyone.
he's like the most important like one of the most important figures in human history. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly. So in 1515, he moved to France to be with King Francis I. After France did some more overthrowing of parts of Italy, he died on the 2nd of May, 1519, at the age of 67. He probably died of a stroke. He had a couple strokes like, leading up to that, so pretty long life. He died when he was 67 in France.
Wait, that's a
There's
long life.
67 in 1500s. Yeah.
Oh, okay, 1500. I was like, dude, that's like 28 years for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty good. There's a story that I've heard before that like he was never religious, but when he died, he asked God for forgiveness. And I don't know if that's true or something that people wanted to say afterwards, but there's that as well. He's buried in Italy, but had died in France. So, okay, let's talk about the Mona Lisa herself. Um, and I'm going to talk about like why is she in France anyway? I'm talking because I'll tell you why in a minute. Um, her name was probably Lisa Gherardini. She was the wife of a wealthy merchant. She was about 24 when the painting was made. People also speculate that maybe she was like he painted her, but he was actually painting Salai, the apprentice who lived with him. But that's probably not true. People have been trying to like figure out exactly who she was like forever. But it is 30 by 20 inches, so it's much smaller than the Last Supper. It's pretty small. It is oil, so it is an oil painting, and oil was just becoming popular. So oil painting is instead of mixing the pigment with egg, you mix it with linseed oil or like another oil, and that gives you the ability to like layer the paint.
Yeah,
And so Leonardo's technique that he made popular was called sfumato, Sfumato, which is like layers, and that makes it look kind of like hazy in the background,
yeah,
cool things like that. It's a half-length portrait. She's sitting in front of a landscape, and it right now is in the Louvre. Um, so she also probably like the paint also is like very delicate. So she probably had eyebrows and eyelashes, but those have just been like erased by time and like cleaning and all of that. So I was wondering like why is she in France when it's like an Italian painter and an Italian woman? But it sounds like he just brought her there. He had started to do the painting. He never finished it. He is like technically not finished. He never gave it to the man who commissioned it, and he took it with him when he went to France to live to live in the court there. So that's just kind of where it stayed and where it ended up. Um, the She's been in the Louvre since 1797, but not the entire time. So I'm going to tell you sometimes when she was not there. Guess who hung her in his bedroom?
oh God,
This is for you to
The
guess.
Rock. I don't know.
Uh, sure, he could have it. Napoleon, of course.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes. Which means I was wrong when I said that the Musée Napoleon, the Napoleon Museum became the Louvre. It sounds like it was the Louvre, and then he had the name changed to the Museum Napoleon, and then they changed it back to the Louvre after he was gone. So he had just kind of like called it that and then brought all of his stolen things in there. So for a little bit, she was hanging in his bedroom. During the Franco-Prussian War, she was moved to an arsenal outside of Paris just for safety reasons. But the big thing that happened to the Mona Lisa, which really, really made her famous, is on August 21st, 1911, she was stolen from the Louvre. It um, really was like an international mystery. It was in every paper. There were reproductions of her everywhere. And this is the time when it became like that. That's why it became so famous because there's like a bunch of Leonardo da Vinci paintings you can see. But this one became famous because of all the reproductions and all the mystery upon the fact that she was stolen.
Was
Um,
he was he famous? As in, like,
yeah,
no, if Napoleon took it, then presumably he knew that this was like something that was like very valuable
yeah.
already.
Yes. It was
Okay,
valuable, but it was like it wasn't the Leonardo painting. It was like
right.
all of his works are good, but there wasn't like a this is the number one until the Mona Lisa was stolen, and then everybody was like, "Oh my God," and like really excited about it.
Got it. Got it.
Um, and then so what? So they were like, all it was all over the news. People thought they were like, did J.P. Morgan do it and have it sent to America? People thought they questioned Picasso, thought that he might have done it. Um, but it turned out that the Louvre was just being cleaned. So it was closed for a couple days. And a painter named Louis Barrault was like, hey guys, I think this is gone. Like he was like, I think I haven't seen the painting in here. And like people had thought it had been moved to be cleaned, but no one could find it. And so it took like about 24 hours for people to actually realize that it had been stolen, like it wasn't anywhere else in the museum. And it turns out that a man named Vincenzo Perugia had just taken it. He worked there and he walked in his work clothes at 7 a.m., just lifted it off the wall, put it in a cupboard, and took her home at night and just like took it out. He was questioned but not suspicious, so they just like didn't think that it was him. And he had her for a few years. He had it in his apartment in Paris in a closet and then in the drawer under his oven. Like we're so lucky that it's not didn't catch on fire or like be
It's
destroyed or
crazy.
melted. He had it like in his kitchen for several years. Then he brought it to Italy in his car. He had a false bottom under his trunk, probably like, where the spare tire is. He had her in there, took her to Italy, tried to sell her to some art guys, and they were like, yeah, no, this is no, you can't. Like Also, like, it's hard to get rid of stolen art once you've stolen art because like everyone knows. And so they turned him in. He said that it was because she belonged in Italy and that's why he had stolen her. But like it's probably was just about money. He tried to sell it and also he kept it in his closet for 2 years in Paris. It's not like but he's still kind of hailed as he was hailed as a hero in Italy and he served 6 months in jail for that.
That's
But that really
crazy.
made it like the biggest, that really made her very, very popular. During World War II, she was moved all the time. I know we talked about this, but like the Nazis were obviously like huge art thieves and they like wanted to have everything. There's so much that they like, there's lost forever that they like probably destroyed. We've all seen monuments then, all of that. But they would move the Mona Lisa constantly. They'd put her in like private vaults, in churches, in people's homes. Sometimes like they only had a couple hours to get her out as the Nazis like came barreling into France. They would just like move it and move it and move it. And luckily, it survived the entire war and was returned to the Louvre in September 1945. So,
Why is it in France?
because that's where Leonardo was. He brought it there. Like he rolled it up and brought it there to finish because he died in France. The last years of his life he spent in France, and it was just one of his unfinished paintings, and he brought it with him.
And Italy doesn't have any rights to it because I mean he's an Italian citizen.
No, like, he brought it there, and he worked for the King of France of his own free will.
I guess it
So
makes
it
sense.
belongs
Yeah.
it belongs to France. Yeah. Um, so another fun thing about the Mona Lisa is she really inspires people to throw shit at her. So in 1956, she's gone like traveled a little bit in different exhibitions and she went to a different part of France and someone threw acid on her, which damaged the bottom. Also in that same year, someone threw a rock and that damaged her a little bit. A dude in the 50s also thought he was in love with her and tried to steal her out of the frame. So he cut it with a razor blade and obviously didn't get it. So then she needed to be protected in glass. It's in bulletproof glass now, but it ended up being, put in glass. In the 60s, she went to the US and the Kennedys saw her in DC. So in 1962, she was in DC and in New York for a little bit. She was almost ruined by a sprinkler in DC, but her glass protected her. In 1974, she was in Tokyo and a woman sprayed red paint on her, like on the glass, like it has
Yeah.
the glass around it, but sprayed red paint on her because she was upset that the museum didn't have disabled access. So she did that in protest. In 2009, a Russian woman was mad that she didn't have French citizenship. So she bought a teacup at the store in the Louvre and threw that at her, and it like shattered on the glass and everything was fine. In May 2022, a man disguised as a woman in a wheelchair threw cake on her to protest global warming. And then just a few weeks ago, on January 28th, 2024, two people from a food retaliation group who are protesting the lack of like good food around France and like around the world threw soup at her. So people love doing that.
That is so
I'm sure
fucking
they'll
stupid.
continue to throw stuff at her. Um, but that is, and then I said this earlier, but I want to say now, like they changed the way you view it now. Because if you look up like visiting the Mona Lisa, you'll see pictures of like a sea of cell phones trying to take a picture of the Mona Lisa. And I think I put like a selfie of my dad from like far away because I know he saw it. But like now it's a queue and you have 30 seconds to see it because like 80% of the people who visit the Louvre are there to see the Mona Lisa. Like that's what they want to see. I mean, there's other like incredible things there. Um, she is obviously insured. In 1962, she was insured for $100 million, which is the equivalent to about $1 billion today. So she has a $1 billion insurance policy, and her estimated price is $860 million. Not that they're ever going to sell it, but like that's the, you know,
I can
estimation.
I can't wait for the day we find out Jeff Bezos cut a check for that.
Well, I don't know. Another thing you should see is Glass Onion because there's an incredible Mona Lisa storyline up in Glass Onion if you haven't seen that yet. But
Is
it is
it
about a
about a
billionaire.
billionaire? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I won't spoil it, but it's very fun. So yeah, that's the dish on the Mona Lisa. One of probably the most famous painting in the whole entire world, who's became super famous because she was stolen and she was missing for like 3 to 4 years.
And so you've been there, you've seen it. How
I
did it?
haven't. I haven't seen
Oh,
it. No. I went to Paris
what?
for a day and I didn't see it. I've seen other Leonardos like in Florence and I
Oh,
saw I
okay.
saw the Last Supper in Milan, but I have not seen the Mona Lisa.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious if people have seen it. It's interesting. Like I've seen the pictures of people in that giant room and
Hmm.
doing that, and I was just like, what? are we doing as a species? Like who like
No, I
what
know. And I think it's one of the, like when I went to the Sistine Chapel, it was just so crowded and there were like all these French children yelling and I was like, I hate this. Like it was just like way too much. And it's hard, but it's hard to see those things today. You have to find something that you love that's not that popular. Let's see.
I mean, and the thing is like if you, there's people like you with actual degrees in this stuff. Not that I know anything about it, but like there's so many people of the era that are incredibly talented and created incredibly, intricate, detailed work,
Hmm.
and they like don't have the kind of brand recognition that like a
Hmm.
Da Vinci or Michelangelo or whoever else has. But
Yeah, and I think there's I don't know, there's got to be like a real good reason why, but like I feel like in um Da Vinci's case, like he's actually such an interesting character, Like you have this image of this like old man with this like long white hair and this long white beard, like sketching helicopters in the 1500s.
but that's the thing to me, like the thing about that would draw me to it is that kind of stuff. It's like looking in his
Yeah.
notebooks and seeing like how this guy's mind, like it's like getting
And I think that's why he's popular. Yeah.
getting a window into like his mind. But like the Mona Lisa itself, I'm like, this isn't that like okay, I understand it's a big deal, but like I spent part of your conversation here looking at the last one. I was like, this is incredible. Like this looks awesome. Like you
Hmm.
just walk into a church and see it. That's so cool. And so I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, but I'm also like just I don't know. Like it doesn't seem like that big of a deal.
We know you hate art, Paris. Everyone knows.
No, I don't hate art. Like that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like there's a lot of really great art that you can see that isn't this famous that is as amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's art is subjective and it always will be.
I
Like
mean,
just
what do you think? You tell me. You have an art degree. You're the subject matter expert. What do you think of the Mona Lisa?
I mean, I think it's beautiful. I think that like I can't believe that someone can make that out of paint. I can do like two blobs of oil paint and like nothing. Like it's incredible how layered and detailed it is. I'm also not going to spend my whole entire life trying to figure out what those cliffs are. There's people who've like devoted their entire life to looking at the cliffs behind her in the painting and trying to figure out exactly what Leonardo was trying to do because he painted it like in a studio, you know.
Right.
So and like I love, like my in-laws are hilarious and like they are retired, semi-retired. And so like there was a Vermeer painting where they had like removed a layer and found an angel that he had painted over and they like removed that layer and it was on display in Dresden. So they went to go see it because they'd seen it before the restoration. And like that's super fun. Like good for you
That
guys.
is
But
fun.
like
Yeah.
yeah. So like there's always like and I love like there's always stuff that like you're like what's under this? Like is there like a painting underneath this? Can it be like, something better underneath it, something that can tell us what he was thinking? It's just like it's mysterious and fun because I think 99.99999% of us can't do it. So we're like, I don't know, how did he do it?
Have you said you were in the Sistine Chapel, right?
Yes.
When you look at like the paintings of the Sistine Chapel, like to me, like those are like crazy realistic and like hyper detailed. It's partially
Hmm.
because like everybody's naked, so like you have to have a lot more detail. But
Um, but and also like, I mean, Sistine Chapel, like I said, doing the fresco painting is so fucking hard. And then like I feel like it's just harder than regular painting just because you're painting on the wet plaster. You have to paint before it dries. You have to like do all these things. And he did it like laying down on rafters because it is high. It's not like my ceiling where I can be on like a ladder to like paint. I painted my ceiling with like a roller the other day and it was exhausting, you know? Like it was like a three-story chapel painting like that's crazy. Crazy talented and awesome
yeah,
and totally like we're seeing. But it's just like again like the thing that it's I can't get over as someone who loves art is when you are looking at it in person, you're like, this is something I have seen so many times and reproduced so many times. And then like I'm standing here in Milan staring at the Last Supper and like I'm exactly where Leonardo would have stood and been like, what do I need to add? Whatever, like whatever, however he talked,
yeah.
which is
That's
just super cool.
that's the part of it that like blows me away. It's like the history part of it that like you're
Mm.
there in front of, which is why like now that I know that the Last Supper was is in a church, it feels a lot more meaningful to like see it because
Hmm.
you're like to your point, you're like, holy shit, like this guy was standing. He came in here probably like every day for like I don't know months or whatever, however long it
Yeah.
took, and
Hmm.
was just like having his tea over here, and then like
Hmm.
like it's crazy. You can put yourself in that. Whereas like I feel like the Mona Lisa is hard to put myself in that. Like now it's like now that you told me all this stuff, I'm like it just seems to just attract crazy people.
I know.
like, like
I could see on the news,
wait, why do they throw the soup on her?
for to protest like food insecurity.
What does that
Um,
mean?
just like that there's not access to like fresh food in different parts of France, and so they're protesting that, which is like a real thing to protest. Absolutely. There's food insecurity and food deserts all over the world, um, where people don't have access to good food. But, you know, if you want to bring attention to your cause, that's one way to do it.
I mean, you're right.
Don't do it.
You're right.
Let's
That is
we
that
could,
is definitely a way to make sure people. I mean, we're talking about it right now.
exactly, exactly. So, I mean, and I always am like, you know, even like, being in like I love the Met Museum in New York and being in those places, like you're so close to those paintings, so there's something special about her that she needs to be behind all that glass because people keep wanting to, make a point. I'm sure
I'm
that
looking.
like the dude who thought he was in love with her is not the only person who's thought he was in love with her.
I know, Taylor.
So
If I ever call you and say, "Hey, I'm going to the Louvre because I found my wife," just please
I will.
chain me to a desk.
I will. Yeah, absolutely not. But we can go to the Louvre and see it. We should do that when we tour France.
Taylor, can you do like a heist series? Can you do a series about the Boston
Yeah.
heist and like
What's a
that was
Boston heist?
it was
Like,
some museum in Boston, and these paintings have never
oh,
been found, and they stole. I forgot what they stole, but like, I remember like it was a really big deal.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Boston art
The
heist.
Gardner Museum fat heist theft.
Yeah, yeah, and they stole Vermeer. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know Rembrandt. They stole a couple of Rembrandts.
Fun. Yeah, I'm gonna find more because these, I know they're thefts, but they're fun thefts.
But you could break it out. It would be cool because you could do like fun thefts and not so fun thefts. Like it would be
Yeah.
interesting to also know like what else has happened in war that
Yeah,
we don't know about. Like
totally.
what did the Nazis steal? What was destroyed? Like how many of those
Hmm.
churches were bombed that like had crazy art
Hmm.
in them? Like
Totally. So much. And like I think I mentioned this maybe before, but when I was in college, I interned at the Brooklyn Museum and it was like right after 9/11. So we were like, prepping for danger. Um, and we thought that we're like, what will we do with the art? So I went into like the archives and found the letters and all the places that we had put the art from the Brooklyn Museum during World War II, and it was really cool. They like shipped it off to Long Island and like had it in someone's basement. I think wasn't there art hidden in the Biltmore that we had when we went to the Biltmore to visit
yeah,
it? There were
yeah,
like some big works of art were kept here as well because it was like out of the way of a place that might be bombed by like the Nazis.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
all that stuff is really fun.
it'd be cool to do something about around that. Yeah, there was something else there that I wanted to touch on. I totally am blanking now, but
Tell me about more
um.
heists.
Yeah. Yeah. If folks know of heists, that'd be really cool. So anyways, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that,
Yeah,
Taylor.
interesting.
I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole about Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci, and the whole host of others now. So, I'm not even an art
Awesome.
guy. It's more like it's just fascinating. Like that part of like history is just super
Hmm.
interesting. So,
Hmm.
cool. Anything else to report before we sign off?
I just had a fun short conversation with our friend Nadine about taking down statues because of like, of people who we no longer want to celebrate. And there was one that she was like, we're not taking this down because she lived in Canada. And she was like, because he wasn't a racist, but I just think he was a drunk. And we agreed that if we took down all of the statues of people just because they were drunks, we don't have any statues. And we laughed. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
That'll probably be
um,
true.
Yeah, and yeah, that's it. Let us know if you have any ideas like this one, like shit, if you're a good heist, let me know. Doomtofailpod at gmail.com, and we're at Doom2Fail on all social media. And we will see you there.
Do
Yeah,
Lufthansa heist. That'll be fun too. Anyway, okay, yeah, sorry. Do fell pod right to us. There's a ton of heist ideas. I'm like
again,
going down a rabbit hole.
we can't believe that Taylor Swift is pregnant and her and Travis Kelce
Guys,
are already married and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
unbelievable, unbelievable stuff. I hope you celebrate Swift Kelsey Day.
Yes.
And yeah, we're really, really excited too. So thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Taylor. We'll go ahead and
Thanks,
cut
Bryce.
things off. And